Hello, everyone. You've tuned into the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant Rich Myers with the Indiana State Police Public Information Office. We're brought to you each and every week by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids. We want to thank them for being our sponsor each and every week. We want to thank Tom Trial, the man behind the scene, the man behind the curtain, who puts us on the Indiana State Police YouTube site each and every week. So thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. The main man's with me again today. Man, you're getting to be a regular here.
Well, we need to have Tom Trial sit down.
We need to have him in here and do this. You know
absolutely
what?
do.
We'll have a show on him.
ISP.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, because he's a good-looking guy.
He is. He knows where the coffee is.
Superintendent Doug Carter of the Indiana State Police is my guest today, and thank you so much for coming over and taking time to do this.
Always a pleasure.
We appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
And we're kind of just going to do a review of the last 4 years and where we started and where we're at and what's going to be happening. So, again, that was appropriate, a big sigh.
Yeah.
It's been jumping in the ring and taking off from the gate and going, and we've had a lot of happenings in the last 4 years.
I've realized, Richie, that this period of reflection has caused me to think this way, but I've realized I crammed the first 50 years of my life into the last 4. And that came to me in the swimming pool about 3 weeks ago. And I love this place. I love its people. I love what they do. And I just can't imagine stepping away.
Yeah. Well, and this is not the time or the place or for any of that. But we want to talk about your accomplishments and how the department started and where we're at and what's happened throughout the history that you've been here. And we're kind of going to start with and go backwards is this Bicentennial thing that we were involved with.
Big deal.
Very heavily involved with.
We were.
Yeah.
The likes of Bill Dalton, Terry Treon, Pat O'Connor,
Travis.
Dave Travis, Mike Nichols, many of our motors, all of our districts around Indiana. I didn't realize the magnitude of what we were about to do. But hearing them talk about what they experienced in these local communities around Indiana, large and small, the engagement with the citizens from those respective communities, and the opportunity for the ISP to be out in front of something so important to our state's history was really, really significant. And I'm so very proud of not only what they did, but how they did it. And that will be something that we'll never see again in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was very proud of what they did and what they accomplished.
Very much so. And the unique thing about it touched all 92 counties, which were a part of all
3,200 miles, I think, over 3,000 miles.
Yeah. And, we were a part of every one of those counties, which we are embedded into throughout Indiana. And it was a undertaking with the special part of you and the recruit class.
Oh, what a cool day that was.
Yeah. And that was a unique, something that they're not going to forget and that they're going to have for the rest of their lives to look back on and see that they were a part of that 200th birthday.
That's right. And just this last week, I was presented one of the original torches.
Wow.
It was awesome. And I'm going to personally build a rack for it.
Yeah.
That we can either put it out at the museum, we can put it over at headquarters. There's lots of places we could place that, but it certainly is a huge part of our history. And I'm looking forward to displaying that torch. It's number 7, by the way.
How many do they have? Do you know?
19, I thought. She said 19.
I didn't know
originals.
That. Okay.
And they had cameras built into them. And
it
was really amazing. GPS trackers. It was really, how nice of them to bring one to us.
Yes, that is very good and very unique. We're glad to have that.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, let's skip around here a little bit and kind of talk about something that just happened also. And I had somebody in from the air section recently that talked about this, but the helicopter just had a great upgrade done to it.
It did.
And it was very much needed.
It did.
It was needed, wasn't it?
It was. Back in 2013, Governor Pence told me, he said, you need to create a law enforcement aviation model. And we have spent literally hundreds and hundreds of hours preparing for that, because I'll never do anything just simply because we or I can. It'll always be because we should. And for decades upon decades, the ISP has been the lead in law enforcement aviation. And over the last couple of decades, we've fallen away from that a bit. And I'm not blaming anybody. It just happened to be the period of time that we were in, very difficult financial times and the like. But even with difficult financial times, explaining to a mom or dad that we couldn't find their child before they died, or an Alzheimer's patient before he or she froze next to a pond, or before a violent escapee has access to a residence, and brutally rapes a homeowner. All three real situations.
Right.
I don't know if you can put a dollar amount to those.
Yeah.
So fast forward, we had an opportunity to rebuild because of the sale of an aircraft. We had the ability to reinvest that money into an existing platform, aviation platform that we had, which was specifically a helicopter, with the greatest, newest, most up-to-date technology that's on the market today.
Right.
That has been an incredible journey, and it's the first step for us to build a sustainable model by which the ISP will maintain that lead in the law enforcement communities to have those assets available to any community in Indiana, not just for the ISP, but to any one of our law enforcement partners around Indiana. And this was a really, really important first step for me. And to see that helicopter come back, I was really, really proud of it. We do know we have to continue to invest, though, in that aviation model,
right.
And there's been a lot of discussion about that with the governor-elect, certainly with Governor Pence, and with their respective staffs. So I'm looking forward to what the future might hold.
Good,
and we'll see where it goes.
Well, I know, like you said, many times we're called upon by other law enforcement agencies throughout the state, and not other law enforcement agencies, but other agencies, period. And Eric Strevel, the pilot I was talking to, and I had no idea that we were even involved when the Aviation flu was down south, right. And we flew tests back and forth. I had no idea.
Purdue.
Yeah,
we did.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's good that the aviation section's out there and that they're getting this new and improved equipment. And Eric was all over that, saying that it's the state of the art right now.
That's right. There was a time we had 5 operational helicopters in Indiana that could be airborne within minutes. Yeah. Now we have 1. So one's better than 0. But so at least it gives us a place to begin. And I'm looking forward to what that might be.
Republican National Convention.
Oh my, yes.
Was that exciting or what?
It was more than exciting to me, Richie. It was a game changer for law enforcement. And we took 125, something like that, somewhere around that number of troopers to Ohio, fully expecting to have rather violent interactions with people on any given day.
Right.
Throughout the course of these very long days. By the way, every one of these troopers stayed in a university with no air conditioning, and not a one of them complained. I was so proud of them. They went over there completely prepared. Again, with a mindset of service to the community, happened to be in Cleveland, Ohio. A tremendous amount of planning went into that. Tremendous amount of equipment purchases had to go into that to properly equip these guys and gals. They were committing way more of themselves than we'll ever be able to pay them for. But what we found was the reality that even though people hate each other, they can live in peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for me to walk around and see that happen with people that I know hate the very essence of who we are and what we represent, it's hard to hate what's up close to you.
Yeah.
And these specifically, the Indiana troopers were all over national news.
Yeah.
And even Governor Kasich wrote an op-ed not long after this, and there was a picture of a trooper playing ping pong. Yeah. And I was so very proud of that. Again, number one, because I represent the ISP, and to see that interaction with those troopers. But law enforcement in general, law enforcement globally, it's just amazing to me. We're all human beings, and while we all have those First Amendment rights, we can say what we want almost any time we want. These people were very respectful.
Yes.
And we stayed in this Class A uniform most of the week. We didn't even get into a softer uniform with riot gear and the like, even though we had all that equipment, we were prepared to deploy it.
Right.
That was not the right thing for law enforcement to do.
Yeah.
So recognizing different cultures, recognizing we don't understand those different cultures, but understanding that if we just simply come together as human beings, it's amazing what we can accomplish. And anybody that says that's not accurate was not in Cleveland, Ohio, in July of 2016, because it happened. We didn't have that clash occur. One of the most memorable for me was. Do I have time?
Sure. Yeah.
One of the most memorable for me, there were 2 of them actually, but the number one was Captain Bobby Burke.
Right.
This little boy grabbed him in the middle of the square, which is where all this was happening, and they had this area of it wasn't a water park necessarily, but it had the water squirt up from the fountains. Yeah, and kids walk out and play in it, and he grabbed Bobby Burke by the hand and took him out into that fountain, and he went. And here's this little guy that's done.
You mean big mean Bobby Burke went out there?
He absolutely did. And it was dark. It was a beautiful night, and there was a lot happening. A lot of protesters, again, peaceful protesters for the most part. And I look over, and there's Bobby Burke out in the fountain with this little boy. And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's a cool moment for me.
Yeah, and that's what you remember, and that's what, again, that's why we decided to put on this uniform and do this job, isn't it?
Absolutely. Sure is.
Recruit classes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've had a lot. We've had some good ones, and we're working on them again.
We are. It's perpetual. Geez, now's a tough time to be in this business, and we're seeing that in our recruiting initiatives, recruiting efforts. We're seeing it in the number of applicants that we currently have.
But I don't think it's just us.
No, it's everybody. No, that's right, Richie. It is everybody. It's economical for a lot of them. They look at this and they think, gee, many Christmas, whether that be with college debt or this notion that I'm going to have to do that and maybe die for someone that doesn't even know who I am. I'm not sure this is for me, but we're getting some really good people at the same time. So I don't want it to be viewed as this. That was a negative comment because I don't mean for it to be that way, but it's reality.
Right.
And looking to see what's come out of that recruit school, I'm proud of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really, really proud of them. It's been quite a journey. We've been able to have a class every single every single year, and I would certainly hope with or without me that continues, because we can't even replace who we lose.
Right.
So we have the same number of troopers now we had in 1984 when I started, which is pretty telling bit of trivia. And again, no one's fault, but again, we have more people retiring, leaving, going to other agencies than we're able to replace each and every year. So there's got to come a point in time where we find equilibrium there, and we're able to get through the other side of this and start increasing those staffing levels now, because ISP does more today in a different way than we've ever done in our history.
We've picked up a lot of specialty teams and a lot of different angles and areas that we are progressing in.
We have, and I think it's time. If there's ever a time for the ISP to start considering transitioning from generalist to specialist, it's now. Whether that be crimes against children, cybercrime, international crime, task forces, and the like. So there's so many different things that we could be doing and doing very, very well that we have to look at that with 2020 vision.
Yeah. Status of our fleet, where are we at on that?
Yeah, still a lot of work to do. We've made some headway. We have made some headway, but there's still a lot more to do. We've done a tremendous amount of study by working the problem backwards, in essence. Where do we want to be and how are we going to get there, rather than what do we have now and how do we fix it?
Right.
We've worked from the inverse perspective. And right now, unfortunately, it's all economical. But we cannot have troopers out there in Indiana with vehicles that need to be towed around from point A to point B that have 180, 200,000 plus miles on them when we ask them to do things that most people don't understand. So we that's a necessary part of who we are. We drive about 34 million miles a year as an agency. It's a critical piece of equipment, and we have to treat it as such. So we've made progress, but there is still much work to do. And I've had a couple meetings now with the transition team for Governor-elect Holcomb. They've been very receptive. They've been very respectful, very understanding, and trying to understand the magnitude of what they're about to take here. So I'm glad that we've had that interaction. I'll hope to have more of it.
Good. Well, we're down about a minute, 30 seconds. We've kind of hit the highlights of what's happened around the state the last 4 years, and especially this last year, again, with the Republican National Convention and the Bicentennial, which has taken a big bite out of us. But anything else that I've missed that you want to talk about?
Oh, there's a whole lot I could sit here and talk about.
Bolt for the Heart. I forgot about that also.
Oh, yeah. Geez, Pete.
Has that taken off and ran or what?
It's got a life of its own.
It has.
Pierre Twir and Troy Flugner, there's several people that need to be shout out to here to make this happen. But this is a classic example of what happens when a community comes together with a common cause, with a singular goal.
Yeah.
It just happened to be that singular goal was equipping troopers with AEDs.
And the best part about it is no money to taxpayers.
Unbelievable. No money to taxpayers.
No money at all. And they're getting ready to give us another 95. And how many have we had so far that
this is going to put us well over 200.
Well over 200.
All you got to do is lace up your running shoes and get out there and help. I know there have been 5 or 6 actual uses of the AEDs.
Yeah.
A couple saves. I'm so proud of that. But I'll tell you, these guys that have stepped up and stepped out for us, I'm just so very grateful. So very grateful.
Well, Superintendent, we've talked our time limit, but I appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for coming in and speaking with us today.
My pleasure. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Again, you've been listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance. Cops for Kids, we thank you for listening to you. We'll catch you again next week. This Roadshow's out.